So Julie, as it relates to children again, organic food, and I know you have a lot of experience with baby food in the video you talk about. Tell me about that.
Okay, well baby food is so easy to make organically because essentially whatever you're eating you can adapt. Like if you're having sweet potatoes for dinner, it's just a matter of pureeing them through a baby food grinder or mashing them really well with a fork. So it's extremely easy and inexpensive because you can use an ice cube tray and freeze up whatever you're eating so that this isn't an extremely laborious process. And now, luckily, baby food, organic baby food, even by the jar, is often only about 20% more. So it's not an outrageous sum of money, and it's giving them the great first start. That's so important.
That's wonderful. Because I think even if there was somewhere to start as a new mom, maybe not knowing how to dive into organic, it's pretty easy on the shelves of baby food to pick. Don't make any other choice.
Yeah, certainly. And let me get to kids and additives. The biggest reason why my mom had to get me away from conventional food was the additives was what really causing problems. They're allowed to add 300 additives to conventional cookies and pastries and things that kids just really gravitate to. So the organic doesn't allow a lot of these additives. They have to be natural additives. So vitamin C and vitamin E are added as preservatives versus the nasty preservatives like BHT or MSG or any of those. By using all natural food, the child's learning potential can be maximized. That's what's so important, is that a lot of things like red dye can really affect learning. So it's not just the fact that the chemicals are missing from the food, it's also the added additives, the preservatives, the colors, the standard stuff that makes things, the outrageously red candy, that sort of thing is completely natural. They're using beet juice versus a coal tar dye derivative.
Can you imagine if we took a trip from school to a lab where all these additives and maybe that would hit home as moms with poison labels on shelves. You know, would you give those to your kids? I think if you could see it and it was right in front of you. And Julie, that's what you're doing so effectively, is sharing with everybody how these are little tiny bottles of poison each meal that we're feeding our children.
Unfortunately, especially, I got to hit home that dye is made from coal tar. I don't know if people really realize when they're eating those delicious licorice pieces that are bright red, that they're typically made from coal tar. And tar is not really meant to be consumed in high amounts.
It's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah. So just trying to hit home that this is well beyond.
This is not food.
This is not food. Not a normal food supply, and yet we've been fed it only for the last 60, 70 years. I think I'd love to go back and look at the fact that all we're doing with organic agriculture is nothing new. We're going back. We're saying let's go 100 years back in time and make food the way it was intended for human beings to eat it, and the way we've been eating it for thousands of years.
I wonder what we would see in the cancer rates. Would we see a...
Well, I would think we would. I mean, now the shocking latest study out, 1 in 3 people will experience cancer in their lifetime. 1 in 3. How are we not all just standing up and saying, that is unacceptable numbers?
Unbelievable.
I wouldn't be at my doctor saying, I'm sorry, I'm just not willing to live with 1 in 3. What can I do preventatively to deal with it? And I feel a huge thing you can do is by getting those 7 servings of veggies and 3 servings of fruit a day, and focusing on making sure they're clean is a great way to cleanse, a great way to get that fiber into you, get the toxins moving out of the liver. It's awesome, for sure.
So Julie, you said something that was very interesting to me earlier. You said that by 2 years old, our children have retained in their systems over half of the toxic allotment that they ever should in their entire lives. Is that right? Am I saying that right? How?
Well, yeah, it's a tricky wording from the Environmental Protection Agency, but the quote they've given is that a child is hitting 50% of their cancer risk allotment by 2 years old because of the unfortunate toxins in our environment. And know that the greatest way we take in these toxins is by actually ingesting them. Children are lower to the ground, so they're often accidentally sticking a toy in their mouth after a bleaching agent's been used on the floor, or they're eating. Know that their little bodies eat far more food than we do, and they drink a lot more liquid. So when we think of how much fruit juice a child goes through, that's an intense way, because unfortunately a lot of the really precious fruit with thin skins like pears and apples, plums, berries, are all highly sprayed now. We go through that in the series about what are the most important fruits and veggies to buy organically. I think that's great to provide a list so that you're not feeling like completely overwhelmed, like I have to switch all my lifestyle over.
Excellent.
But there's a great guide
so this is going to show me if I want to take some steps, how I can.
Exactly. What are the most important steps so that you don't feel like you have to do it all at once.
Oh, that's great. Okay, super. Now, you also talked about when a couple is considering having a baby in the first place. That's the time before she even gets pregnant to consider organics in her life. Now, what about once the baby's born and they're nursing, breastfeeding?
Breastfeeding, of course, is a critical time because you're giving so many immune factors to the baby. When a woman is breastfeeding, that's such a critical time where you're passing on so many immune building things to the baby that you certainly wouldn't want to have any chemicals along with the breast milk. So I think it's so important that we're focusing on organic produce. Also consider that by eating the 7 veggies and lots of good fruits that are organic, we're sure to cover off the folic acid needs. So for the developing baby, you're going to be getting so many more nutrients by eating organic, especially with the new organic omega-3 infused eggs. That's critical for baby's brain development. So there's all really good tips covered off in the DVD showing people how to live the organic lifestyle.
That's excellent, excellent. So you're saying there are step-by-step instructions in the video that are going to show our viewers what they can do.
Yeah, certainly. And especially when it comes to, like, how do I get my kids to eat organic snacks? Because so often in schools, it can be a real pitfall. Unfortunately, they're allowed in a lot of these vending machines to be having access to some of the craziest food choices. So how can you make these foods enticing enough for them so that they're going to school with some tasty treat that's really good for them and tastes great, but it's also fabulous because it is made from organic ingredients?